Germany to fully support Sri Lanka to ensure democracy and reconciliation. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe makes a special statement. Former President comments on a new political party. SLFP professionals express views on the former Chief Justice Sarath N. Silva. Agrarian Committee of Kaloya rejects the government's new fertilizer subsidy program. SLC announces squad for Asia Cup and ICC World T20.
A very good evening and welcome. This is Primetime News here on TV1 and Shakti TV. I'm Ramesh Bandara and tonight I'm joined by Arundhati Mudannaik. Good evening, Arundhati.
Good evening, Ramesh.
Well, a gentle reminder to all our viewers, so you can follow the conversation, you can join in the conversation with News First through Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @newsfirst_en. Use the hashtags that are featured on the news bulletin throughout the news bulletin and send in your tweets to us.
Let's take a look at the stories in detail now. German President Joachim Gauck says that his government would render its complete assistance to Sri Lanka in its future journey in ensuring democracy and reconciliation.
President Maithripala Sirisena met German President Joachim Gauck at the Palace Bellevue in Berlin last evening, where the two leaders held discussions on bilateral relations between the two countries. During the discussion, President Maithripala Sirisena had commended the assistance given by the government of Germany for the development of Sri Lanka. President Maithripala Sirisena also met with a group of Sri Lankan expatriates living in Germany yesterday.
The biggest triumph this new government achieved after it came into power was that all the countries in the world became our allies. Following the inception of the new government, Sri Lanka became a country which has the blessings of the United Nations. Over 150,000 Sri Lankans live in the whole of Europe. Most of them are those who left the country to seek refuge during the conflict. I believe that you too belong to that majority. So to all Sri Lankans all across the world who left the country during the conflict, we openly invite all of you to return to your country, our country.
President Sirisena met with the German Federal Minister of Economic Cooperation and Development, Dr. Gerd Müller, yesterday. Following the meeting, a joint declaration on development cooperation was signed between the two countries. The agreement was signed by Minister Dr. Gerd Müller and Minister of Development Strategies and International Trade, Malik Samaravikrama. The agreement reads that Germany intends to grant 14 million euros to Sri Lanka as development cooperation assistance. Meanwhile, 3 more bilateral agreements were signed between Sri Lanka and Germany by the two countries' foreign ministers. A memorandum of understanding with the Heidelberg University on the creation of the Sri Lanka chair at the South Asia Institute was signed between the two countries.
A special occasion is to take place today where the Business Community Forum between the German business community and a group of businessmen who arrived from Sri Lanka is to take place under the auspices of President Maithripala Sirisena. The German Foreign Minister said last evening that nearly 200 German investors have come forward to attend this forum. Sri Lanka could gain a lot through this forum, which is what Sri Lanka hopes for. Following this forum, the President's tour of Germany comes to a close, after which he is scheduled to arrive for Austria this evening.
We move on to our developing story tonight. Now, various factions warn that Sri Lanka's computer and IT sectors would be adversely affected and would face a crisis through the proposed economic and technical cooperation agreement that is to be inked with India. The government, however, had noted that it would sign the agreement in the coming months despite the opposition. Send in your thoughts as well through the hashtag ECTA.
On the 9th of December 2015, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe elaborated in Parliament over the proposed ECTA agreement with India. I assert to the chamber once again that our government will never sign the CEPA agreement under any circumstance. The government will enter into an economic and technical pact that is favourable to Sri Lanka. Before we reach an agreement, we will have discussions with the trade union and inform the party leaders and then obtain cabinet approval. Everything will be released to Parliament. However, professionals note that the government is attempting to sign the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement or CEPA under a different name. ECTA contains the same points that were presented in CEPA. On stage, it is announced that the agreement has been reached without moving persons here and there. Another politician speaking elsewhere says that this will permit to bring people to Sri Lanka under a quota system. They are making different statements in a bid to undermine the objections that are raised. This cannot be done. Speaking on the Pathikada program this morning, the Government Medical Officers Association says that issues would crop up as Sri Lanka does not have a national policy on the migration of persons. We see a trend of increased issues when such a pact is being reached in an expeditious manner in the absence of a national policy. When you look at the exchange of services between two countries and when you take into consideration the natural migration of persons, we must understand that if our house is in a mess and if we open our doors to others, that would lead to a serious issue. Persons who continue to speak on the visions of 1950 say that this will not affect the goods and why you are against the services of economy. When you take the global supply chain into consideration, that includes the services. In addition to that, 60% of Sri Lanka's economy depends on services. If we move the services economy away from the legal framework, that would be a disadvantage and not an advantage. India is a large country. They have a dominant economy. When we reach such agreements, we need to ensure that we are not in a disadvantage. However, if we continue to operate with the mentality that we are in the island nation and in fear, we will never get the advantage. On Tuesday, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe reiterated his stance on this matter. Do not raise a voice saying that agreements cannot be reached with India. The people will step out onto the streets and give a lesson in March. Then that issue will be solved. Then you can go to India, China and anywhere close. Do not waste time. For every person that steps out onto the streets, we will have to add tenfold. The media is also wasting time on this. Come on this one journey. A two-party government was elected to obtain results. Do not cut across this. If you are under it, you will not be able to rise again.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says that the United National Front is currently working on a special program to provide job opportunities for the youth of the country. The Prime Minister said that President Maithripala Sirisena's tour of Germany is a stepping stone for this cause.
Today, a large program is in place to provide jobs for the youth of this country. As we speak, the President and a number of ministers are in Germany and Austria. So this program is already underway. If we are to create 1 million jobs in the country in 5 years, we cannot achieve this end through the Sri Lankan market alone. Even back in 1977, we had to resort to overseas resources. Back then, it was the European market. Today in Asia, China and India are equally important. So once we sign trade agreements with Singapore, China, Japan, India and Europe, investors will automatically come here. So through the election manifesto of the United National Party, we received a mandate for this at the last parliamentary election. First, we said that we will create trade agreements and generate job opportunities. Criticize us if the pace we are moving at is not fast enough. Because that cannot be stopped, nor can it be sabotaged. We are ready to face anyone who attempts to sabotage them. The GMOA as well as the media have made an allegation that the CID is being used through my office. I say to the GMOA that your job is not to poke your fingers into the trade agreement. There is a special complaint which has been made against them. These henchmen are those who have gained benefits from the Rajapaksa regime. Even they started their games once again yesterday. We too can comment on the thefts. There is no issue on that.
Now, views were expressed at several events today about the problematic situation plaguing the Sri Lanka Freedom Party in the recent months.
Sri Lanka ඔව් ඉතින් ඇත්තනේ. ඒකනේ. ඉතින් යා කියන එක හරි. ඕන කෙනෙකුට යන්න පුළුවන් ඕන කෙනෙකුට එන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වැඩේ තියෙන්නේ ගියයින් පස්සේ විනිපක්ෂි තියලා වැඩකුත් නැහැ.
I do not know. When you are posing such questions, it seems to me that there is fear, taking into account the sentiments echoed by seniors of the party. Maybe the seniors want to get rid of them. The people say that there is a need for a new political party in the country. I always give you the reasons for that. One is that there is no opposition. Look at the composition in parliament. Everyone is from the same party and the government. Therefore, there needs to be a group that represents the people's opinion.
උන්ගේ මතය ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න යම් කණ්ඩායමක් ඉන්න ඕනේ.
තව පක්ෂයකට ළඟදීම ඇති
මම ඒ පක්ෂික කට්ටිය ඒ හදන අයගෙන්
පළාතවල ඉන්න හදිස්සියක් තියෙනවා. මොකද ලයියයි ලෑස්ති පක්ෂයේ අනිත් පක්ෂයකට කරන්නේ.
එයාලා ලෑස්ති ඔක්කොම.
ඔබතුමා ඉන්නවා කියලා.
මාගේ ඉතින් මම පක්ෂික දැනට ඉන්නවා. ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ මේ එලවන්න නැතුවට එහෙම ලීසියෙන් මාව එලවන්න හම්බ වෙන එක.
අනවැද්දා කියන කාරණේ මම ඉදිරිපත් කරේ.
The statement made over the palm civet was not directed at the former president. When you were mentioning the frog, I said that I would like to call the palm civets. You cannot say that you people crossed over and we did not. Not only Mahinda Rajapaksa, even his father is one who left the party. His father and brothers George Rajapaksa and Lakshman Rajapaksa contested the 1960 elections under the Mahajana Eksat Peramuna. The Rajapaksas always break away from the party. Basil did it thrice and even went to the UNP. We went one and returned. This is not a party of a single individual. This is not a party that belongs only to Chandrika Bandaranaike or Mahinda Rajapaksa. It does not belong to Maithripala Sirisena. This needs to be understood. This is everyone's party. Do not divide yourselves and scold each other. If members of our party scold each other in this manner, how will we face the members?
ගන්ධබ්බය කියලා එක්කෙනෙක් බයිනවා. හාල් පාරුවා කියලා එක්කෙනෙක් බයිනවා. එක්කෙනෙක් කියනවා කලවැද්දා කියලා. එක්කෙනෙක් කියනවා උණහපුලුවා කියලා. දැන් මේ විදිහට මේ අපේම පක්ෂයය ඇයි මේ දෙපැත්තකට වෙලා බැනගන්නේ?
Why are our party members scolding each other in this manner? This is an intellectual party.
මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමා
We as Youth Front of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party have to very clearly state that we are disappointed by the reprimanding against former President Mahinda Rajapaksa.
අධ්‍යාපනයක් දේශපාලනය පිළිබඳව තියෙන
There is a large group of politicians who possess a vast knowledge about politics and have political ideologies. As politicians, we are disappointed to see the discipline of some of these politicians. I saw when the General Secretary of our party sent letters seeking an explanation into certain disciplinary issues. They were burnt. If tomorrow or the day after someone creates a new party, that too will happen, and finally the SLFP votes will go to the UNP and our votes will reduce. We ask the senior generation, let's solve internal matters internally.
අපි අපේ වැඩිහිටි පරම්පරාවෙන් ඉල්ලන්නේ ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් ඒක ඇතුළේ විසඳගමු.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa arrived at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry to investigate into serious acts of fraud and corruption today.
Presidential Commission of Inquiry to investigate into serious acts of fraud and corruption today recorded evidence from the former chairman of the independent television network, Anwar Sirivardhana. The evidence was recorded in the presence of a 5-judge bench. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa was also summoned when the evidence was being recorded. I'm here today as well. A group of attorneys including Gamini Marpana are here. Evidence for the complaint is over and now evidence for the defence is being recorded. It appears that these cases would continue. These are political cases done on political needs and not judicial requirements.
Here's what's coming up on the news tonight.
Global oil prices plunged to a record lows as Brent crude fell 2% on Tuesday to below $33 per barrel. Now, in this backdrop, questions are being raised as to why Sri Lankans are not being benefited in light of the plunging oil prices in the world market.
Oil prices in the world markets, which stood at a price between $60 to $65 hit a low of $32 a barrel on Tuesday, while elsewhere a price of a barrel of crude oil is between $30 to $35. This has seen a plunge of more than 50%. Compared to the plunge in the world oil prices, the purchasing price of a barrel of crude oil by the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation also dropped. The last time the price of petrol and diesel in the domestic market were reduced was in January 2015, and there has been no price reduction since then. The Minister of Finance, the Minister of Petroleum and even the Prime Minister is remaining silent over this matter. The price of a litre of petrol, which can be sold with a profit of 52 rupees, is being sold for 117 rupees. 65 rupees is being extorted from a litre of petrol. A litre of diesel can be given for 42 rupees and that is sold for 95 rupees. 53 rupees is extorted from a litre. There is no such opportunity by making such reductions. You can say that the profits made by the government are being used for the development purposes because the funds go to the government. However, what happens to the profits made by the Indian company based here? It goes to India. It means the money is taken from our pockets and given to that company. The CPC is in turmoil. They say that relief can only be provided after the situation is rectified. There is some truth in this as well. However, we must urge not to keep saying that they indebted the mistakes of the past, but to charge it from those responsible and give the people relief. World oil prices have dropped drastically. However, the benefit of this has not been given to the people. One main reason is the actions of the corruption administration before the 8th of January 2015 and the arbitrary requirements that took place. At present, the CPC is 400 billion rupees in debt to the People's Bank and the Bank of Ceylon. The CPC has incurred as loss of more than 18 billion rupees. At present, the CPC must provide government concessions of more than 300 billion rupees. Government, private and semi-government institutions are over 12 billion rupees in debt to the CPC. They call for a price reduction under such a situation. Speaking at an event today, Subject Minister Chandima Veerakuri expressed the following. Until the year 2014, the government was compelled to purchase crude oil at high prices and sell them to the consumers at a low price. Through that, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation incurred a serious amount of debt. For example, the interest rate of the loan installment is around 1.2 billion rupees. So we have proposed a program to rescue the debt burden of the CPC. As a government, we have taken a decision to work on the cabinet paper that was presented with a just policy, which will see justice being meted out to the people in a transparent manner. During this period, we are compelled to make payments for the things that took place in the past and also minimize the damage incurred.
Sri Lanka has opened its gates for oil exploration in its seas. The government today inked an agreement with one of the leading oil majors in the world.
French oil major Total today inked a deal with Sri Lanka to explore 2 ultra-deepwater blocks under a joint study off the eastern coast of Sri Lanka. The French ambassador to Sri Lanka was among those present for the event. Accordingly, Sri Lanka will get a ground rental of $1 per square kilometre for the entire acreage of the joint study area. The Ministry of Petroleum Resources Development says that the rent would amount to around 7 million rupees per year. For the first time in Sri Lankan history, an oil major has focused its attention on Sri Lanka for oil exploration and inked a $25 million investment with Sri Lanka. This is a historic agreement. We believe that during the 2 years of exploration and study, if oil is discovered, we hope to come to a production sharing agreement.
Last year, it was noted that all farmers who want to sell their harvest from the 2016 Maha season to the Paddy Marketing Board must register with the Paddy Marketing Board on its website. However, on the 17th of December 2015, when 2 officers from the Paddy Marketing Board visited the agrarian community of the Galloya Left Bank in order to educate them on the registration process, they were left speechless in the face of the practical issues raised by the representatives of the agrarian community. On that day, the representatives of the agrarian community unanimously decided to reject the said registration process. In the end, the Paddy Marketing Board also withdrew this process of registration. The agrarian committee of the Galloya Left Bank, which convened today, once again unanimously decided to reject the new process of the government. They did so as the government officials, rather than providing answers to the practical issues that were raised, were left looking dumbstruck in the presence of the agrarian committee. The new process is with regard to the provision of the government fertilizer subsidy for the upcoming yellow harvesting season. There is one serious matter that must be taken into consideration in addition to the issues raised by these farmers. The issue is that the Department of Agrarian Development is making efforts to commit a Sakyuti-style financial fraud under the guise of the fertilizer subsidy. The Commissioner General of the Department of Agrarian Development in a letter issued this set of guidelines in line with the new fertilizer subsidy policy that will be in effect in line with the Jala harvesting season. Under this program, farmers will be given cash instead of the fertilizer, and in order to obtain the funds, all the farmers must open an account at a branch of the Bank of Ceylon or the People's Bank. In addition to that, it has been made mandatory for all farmers who expect the fertilizer subsidy to open accounts at the Farmers' Bank. Some of these farmers' banks are operated by the Agrarian Services Centres as agrarian banks. The banks were launched in 1999 as a pilot project. The circular with regard to the Agrarian Bank, which functioned as a pilot project for over a decade, was only released in 2012. The circular also reads that this is a pilot project. As this continues to be functioning as a pilot project, there is no harm in nominating the Agrarian Bank for a Guinness World Record for the world's longest running pilot project. This bank, which has been accepting deposits from farmers for over a period of 17 years, whilst only a pilot project, has not been registered under the Central Bank of Sri Lanka or the Department of Cooperative Development. Thereby, the Agrarian Bank is one that is not covered by the Banking Act of Sri Lanka, Finance Act of Sri Lanka and the Cooperative Societies Act. In order to operate a financial institution that does not come under the aforementioned acts, a special act needs to be passed in Parliament and the approval of Monetary Board needs to be obtained. As there is no legal framework surrounding the Agrarian Bank, the law needs to be enacted on anyone who forces the farmers to open an account with the Agrarian Bank in order to obtain the fertilizer subsidy. Today, the Supreme Court permitted to take up the petition that was filed by an official from the Department of Agrarian Development who was first transferred for raising questions from his superiors over the legality of the Agrarian Bank and eventually lost his job. Tomorrow on Action TV, we will highlight the reasons for the Agrarian Committee of Gal Oya to refuse to accept the new program to provide the fertilizer subsidy.
Speaking at two different occasions, MP Udegamanpilla made contradicting views on the relationship between Yoshitha Rajapaksa and CSN.
Yoshitha Rajapaksa කියන්නේ අපි දන්නවා ක්‍රීඩකයෙක් ඒ වගේම ක්‍රීඩා ලෝලියෙක්.
We know that Yoshitha Rajapaksa is a sportsman. He is also a sports fan. He saw that there was no channel that was dedicated for the Sri Lankan sports. He spoke to his friends who are sports fans and encouraged them to start a sports channel. That resulted in CSN channel or the Carlton Sports Network. However, Yoshitha Rajapaksa is not a director or shareholder of this channel. He was only a brand ambassador.
එම CSN නාලිකාව තමන්ගේ සන්නාම තානාපති කෙනෙක් විදියට brand ambassador කෙනෙක් විදියට Yoshitha Rajapaksaව පත් කරනවා.
We can easily say that Yoshitha Rajapaksa does not and did not hold any position in CSN. This arrest is unjust and baseless.
ඒ නිසා මේ අත්අඩංගුවට ගැනීම අසාධාරණයි පදනම් විරහිතයි.
A group of professionals supporting the Sri Lanka Freedom Party convened a media briefing today.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂය දෙකට කිරීමේ
In a backdrop where the Sri Lanka Freedom Party is on the verge of facing a split, a certain group is creating the environment required for that. What is most notable is that these persons are not connected to the SLFP, but are using the SLFP to form an alliance for a new party and with the assistance of the SLFP to enter into parliament and enjoy the benefits.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ගිහින් එතන වැඩ වෙන වරප්‍රසාද භුක්ති විඳින අය.
විශේෂයෙන් මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මන්ත්‍රීතුමා
This is the time where Mahinda Rajapaksa is attempting to divide the party and take away a section of it. I say his actions are devious, evil and disloyal. He speaks of 2 points. He says that no one loves the country more than him and no one loves the party more than him. His love of the country and party are only of a front and a lie. He only loves his family.
එතුමා ආදරය කරන්නේ තමන්ගේ පවුලට.
දැන් බලන්න. දැන් එකතු වෙලා තියෙන මිනිස්සු කවුද?
Take a look at the group who is around them. Sarathan Silva is one who set a world record as the judge who said that he gave the wrong verdict. He said that the country faced such an ill fate because of the verdicts he gave. That is how he gave the verdicts. Now he calls the Citizen Media Network the tiger. This is a license to kill those at the Citizen Media Network. After killing and setting it on fire, one would say that it was taken away from the tiger. Who said it? Former Chief Justice of the country. In another 2 years, he would say he made a mistake and that he can do nothing.
ඔබතුමාව ආදරයෙන්
සිරසවිත පිළිගන්නවා. ශ්‍රී ලංකා මාතා අප ශ්‍රී ලංකා නමෝ 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 මාතා.
A Google Loon balloon, which was launched into Sri Lankan airspace to run tests of its ambitious technology to deliver high-speed internet to Sri Lankans, was lowered back to the ground yesterday. The Loon balloon was lowered in Gampala, and a News1st reporter managed to capture footage of the balloon moments after it was grounded.
water set එකක් මිනිස්සුක් ඉන්නෝ මෙතන මනාව රේඩියක් බලාගෙන ඉන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා ළඟට යන්නත් බෑ.
In sports news, the Sri Lankan squads for the Asian T20 and World T20 tournaments were announced today. Lasith Malinga will lead the team at both tournaments.
Angelo Matthews will serve as Malinga's deputy for both the Asia T20 and ICC World T20 tournaments. Of the 15-member squad announced for the two tournaments, 7 players have played not more than 10 matches for their country in the shortest format of the game. The 7 players are Niroshan Dikwela, Shehan Jayasuriya, Milinda Siriwardana, Dasun Chanaka, Dushmanta Chamira, Rangana Herath and Jeffrey Vandese. Lasith Malinga, Angelo Matthews, T.M. Dilshan, Dinesh Chandimal, Nuwan Kulasekara, Tisara Pereira, Sachitra Senanayaka and Chamra Kapugedra are the most capped players in the squad, which has been announced. The Asia T20 will be played in Bangladesh from the 24th of this month to the 6th of March, while the World T20 will be hosted by India.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Arundhati Mudarnayaka.
If you want to read up on any of the stories that we add tonight, simply log on to www.newsfirst.lk. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Ramesh Rugal Bandara. Good night.